Welcome back to the Google Cloud Update. We have been away for the past 2 weeks at Google Cloud Next, and what a show it was. There were some massive announcements, but we are going to set those keynote highlights aside for now. You can always catch up on the Next Session library online. Today, we are going to focus on the regular product updates that have been quietly landing while all eyes were on Las Vegas. In this episode, we will cover some exciting AI and Gemini enhancements, major updates to BigQuery and the newly renamed data tools, near zero downtime improvements for Cloud SQL, some much-needed load balancing quota bumps, and we will close out with some critical security patches for Kubernetes engine that you need to know about. Let us dive in. First up, let us talk about AI and infrastructure. Google Cloud is officially rolling out AI zones. Cloud TPU, Cloud Storage, and Google Kubernetes Engine all now offer support for these AI zones, giving you highly optimized environments to run your machine learning workloads. Speaking of AI models, for you Gemini Enterprise users, Gemini 3.1 Pro and 3 Flash are now available in limited availability. This means app users get the generally available service-level objectives for these models while they are technically still in preview. But here is where it gets really interesting for developers. Gemini Enterprise Agent Platform, which you probably remember as Vertex AI, now supports Custom Model Context Protocol, or MCP, server data stores in public preview. You can connect your custom MCP server securely to access your company's private data or internal tools. And to make agentic workflows even smoother, the Resource Manager Remote MCP server is now generally available. This allows AI agents to dynamically search and identify all Google Cloud projects you have access to, grabbing the right project ID and lifecycle state before it tries to configure anything. Even Bigtable is getting smarter. You can now use Bigtable agent skills to let AI agents assist you with schema design, generating SQL queries, and infrastructure management. Basically, your database now comes with a copilot. Long pause. Moving over to the data and analytics world, we have to talk about a couple of name changes. To show more love to the open source ecosystem, Cloud Composer is evolving to become managed service for Apache Airflow. And DataPlex is now officially called Knowledge Catalog. So when you see those names, you will know exactly what they are. BigQuery has a huge list of updates today. If you are doing vector search, you can now use the vector_index.statistics function to calculate data drift on your index tables. If the data has drifted too much, you can use the alter vector index rebuild statement to rebuild it with zero downtime. Also in GA, you can use the partition by clause to partition tree AH vector indexes, which enables partition pruning and saves you I/O costs. For those of you using change data capture, you can now create materialized views over active CDC-enabled tables, which is finally generally available. On the dataform side, strict act as mode is now enforced globally across all repositories. You will need a custom service account or user credentials to run dataform workflows, BigQuery pipelines, or notebooks. You can also now use custom constraints with organization policy to control specific fields for folder and team folder resources. In the broader analytics space, Looker Studio has deprecated the ads location extension fields. For SAP environments, the BigQuery connector for SAP version 2.13 is GA, fixing a replication bug for partition tables when schema caching is enabled. And if you were using Cortex framework, Release 7 is out. It introduces a highly modular deployment architecture, dataform orchestration, and natively handles dependency graph generation for your SAP ECC and S/4HANA data foundations. Let us shift gears to databases. Cloud SQL from MySQL and PostgreSQL have expanded their near-zero downtime planned operations. Now instances that have connector enforcement enabled, or instances using private services access with a non-RFC 1918 IP address, are eligible for near-zero downtime updates. If you are a Cloud SQL for SQL Server user, you are getting a great preview feature. You can now view and terminate blocked active queries. So if one rogue query is running long and blocking your dependent queries, you can finally just kill it. AlloyDB got a small but important fix. If you leave the initial user or password unspecified during cluster creation, it now safely creates a locked Postgres role with a null password. And if you are migrating into Google Cloud, Database Migration Service for heterogeneous migrations to Cloud SQL for Postgres Cloud and AlloyDB now officially supports Postgres version 18. Now for compute, containers, and networking. Application Load Balancer has a highly requested update in preview. The URL map size limit is being increased from 64 kilobytes all the way to 1 megabyte, because we all know someone out there has a million routing rules. This comes with a new complexity-based quota system that looks at the number of rules, host names, and path matchers. Additionally, backend cloud storage buckets are now generally available for both regional external and regional internal application load balancers. Over in GKE, Gateway now supports Cloud CDN in general availability, so you can cache content closer to users right from your Kubernetes Gateway APIs. GKE also fixed an annoying bug with the Cloud Storage Fuse CSI driver. Previously, mounting buckets with millions of empty folders could take hours and cause a failed to reserve container name error because it used the list objects API. Google swapped this to the Get Storage Layout API, and now it returns almost instantly. For security-focused compute, confidential space is now GA on H100 GPUs using the A3 high GPU 1 gram machine family. And if you use cloud workstations, your pre-configured base images will now send you a notification when your workstation is getting close to its running timeout, saving you from unexpectedly losing your session. In networking security, VPC service controls now generally supports using IAM rules in ingress and egress rules. You can use gcloud access context manager commands to check and list supported permissions. For managed cloud service mesh using the traffic_director implementation, there is now limited support for the Envoy filter API, allowing you to configure things like local rate limiting. In observability and logging, CloudTrace is now officially covered by the Cloud Observability Service Level Agreement. Cloud logging now supports custom data retention periods for the _default log bucket and user-defined log buckets in Google Cloud dedicated universes. And asset inventory has exposed several new resource types publicly, including App Lifecycle Manager, Backup and DR, Parallel Store, and Gemini Enterprise Agent Platform Deployment Resource Pool.1. Lastly, in this section, Contact Center AI rolled out some nice updates. You can now map your web and mobile SDK custom fields directly to HubSpot. They also added a breakthrough for wrap-up feature, allowing agents to answer incoming priority calls even if they are still doing wrap-up notes for the last call. Call scheduling now supports configurable time slots, and the mobile SDK for iOS got a patch fixing a chat text field display bug. Also, for Chronicle users, the V1 cloud storage feed types are now deprecated, and you should check support if you do not see the new limits apply to your environment. Finally, let us talk about security. We have a series of high-severity Linux kernel vulnerabilities impacting Google Kubernetes Engine, GDC, and GKE on AWS and Azure. It is a busy week for kernel patches. First is CVE 2026-31431, which is a flaw in the Authens ASN cryptographic template. This allows an unprivileged local attacker to write to the system page cache, potentially leading to container escape and root privileges. Next, we have CVE 2026-23274, CVE 2025-38248, and CVE 2026-23074. All of these can lead to privilege escalation on container-optimized OS and Ubuntu nodes. The good news is that GKE standard clusters are the primary ones affected. GKE autopilot clusters in their default configuration are not impacted unless you explicitly set the seccomp unconfined profile or allow cap_net_admin. If you are using GKE Sandbox, you are completely protected from these container breakouts. For everyone else, Google is rolling out patched versions across the rapid, regular, and stable channels right now. You need to upgrade your node pools to the latest minor patch versions immediately. If you are on GDC for bare metal, you are responsible for your own OS, so please check with your Linux vendor for patches. And that is a wrap for this week's Google Cloud Update. From AI zones and Gemini 1.1 Pro to massive 1 megabyte load balancer URL maps, there is plenty to keep you busy this week. Please make sure to go patch your GKE clusters, and we will see you next week for more Google Cloud news.